Learn React.js with Vite by creating this exciting stock watchlist web application and then style it using Tailwind CSS and of course React icons. Use the Trading View Widgets to get stock detailed information and performance diagrams. Display the stock list to the UI by using higher array methods like map. Sort the stock by name and sector from A to Z and reverse using the sort method. Display specific stocks by their sector using the filter method, and also search for specific stocks either by the symbol or by the name using the find method. Also load and save the stock watch list in your application to your local storage, and also save the watch list as multiple date-depending JSON files for loading it later as performance comparison. Of course, this project is part of my larger React for Beginners course. Link for this is down in the description below with the coupon code associated to it. For a more project-based course, you can check out my 30 React projects, also on Udemy. Link for it down in the video description below. Now, if you get lost or need help, please feel free to ask any kind of questions in the comment section below. With this being said, like and subscribe. My name is Norbert BM. Let's get started with the project. Now, let's take a look at the application that we're going to build here. This is the stock wish list application. It's going to have on the left side details and diagrams for the stock, also the ability to add stock, and on the right side we're going to have the stock list with the save list optionality, a load already saved lists, so different lists, then the list itself with options to search for example meta, different stocks, and also display them here on the right side later on for detailed analysis, of course. Then we can sort by name in an alphabetic order, of course. Then we can edit, for example, this little file right here, which I know that it has a white space right in here. So we can edit this, we can edit the complete name. Also, we can edit the sector that is in, because when we're adding a new stock, we're going to add the symbol, the stock name, and the sector, of course. Why? Well, because we can also then filter after sectors. For example, this is all sectors. Then we can have electronics, retail, and trade. We have Amazon, Casco, so forth, so on. And we can also filter by name within the sector. So A to Z and Z to A, of course. Okay. Then energy and so forth, so on. Now you can also add, let's say all sectors. We can also delete. Let's delete ExxonMobil. It's going to prompt us with a question if you are sure we want to delete them. So delete the stock. We can then add stock with our form down here, which will also check is each and every field is completed. So please fill out all fields. Then let's say we're going to add, let's choose a stock here. Let's go to, let's add Meta again. So Meta, I'm going to open up Meta. For example, you can then go directly to Trade View and let's open up Apple, for example, open this one up. Go directly to Trade View, search for a different stock like Meta, open up Meta, and then we can get its details from right here. So Meta Platforms, then copy and add this to our application. The new stock, name Meta, symbol will be down here. Also the sector, which is technology services. So let's add also the sector, and let's also add its symbol, which is just going to be, well, of course, Meta. Be right here. You don't need to add capital letters. It's going to be automatically added as capital letters. So Meta, if you're done with it, then just click add, and Meta already exists. Oh, there we go. Also checking if the stock already exists is implemented in our list. So it's not going to let you add, but we're going to go back now and add ExxonMobil again. So ExxonMobil, let's add it back to our stock. We grab onto the details. So it's XOM for the symbol, XOM, then ExxonMobil, and the sector is of course energy minerals. Add this here, and there we go. We have ExxonMobil now added again back. Let's also add NVIDIA also. Let's also add NVIDIA. So here, choose NVIDIA with a NVDA as a ticker symbol, then NVIDIA. And the sector, of course, is electronics and technology. Let's add it right here. Add also NVIDIA. Now, because it's no longer visible in the list, of course, you can scroll here. Now, if you want to check out NVIDIA here, then just click on it. It's going to throw you back to NVIDIA with, it's currently open. This is why I want to show the application in a market open state. So the market is currently open. This is why you're going to see here that the price is constantly being changed. It is displayed as US dollars. Market is open, as you can see right here, as of 16, so far and so on. Then we have here a couple of information. So upcoming earnings is on August the 15th. We have an EPS, so far and so on. Market capitalization, it's now under 3 trillion. It was shortly over, there we go, it's over 3 trillion again. Yes. Then we have a dividend of really no importance because it's 0.03 and a PE, price to earnings ratio of 72, but enough with the stock. Down here we have a diagram. You can change it with lines or candlesticks. You can do a year to date, a 1 day, and to show you the diagrams on each and every day, intraday that is, and can display it in each and every minute. So this is going to change each and every minute. You can also add indicators here for RSI, relative strength index, displayed here if it's overbought or oversold, and so far and so on. So I showed you all the functionalities. This is the stock wish list with stock details, stock diagram, adding new stocks here with auto checking if all fields are completed. If the stock is already in the list, you can then sort the list. You can search for elements in the list. You can also save this list. So we're going to save this list. We're going to save it to the database. So in our folder, I'm going to create now a new folder called DB and save it within here by navigating to DB and save it right there. You can also give it a date. So this, didn't give it any date, but you could also give it a date. And if you want to reload, so for example, you're going to delete everything from here. Remember, this is also stored to local storage. So let's inspect, navigate to application. And right here, you're going to see in your localhost 300 or 3000, or on the port that you set your Vite server to, you're going to see all of the stocks. Now, if you're already here, you can see that this is now in a mobile format. Basically, it is also responsive, the application. If I would close this up, this is a browser view. And let's open up this again. And you're going to be now in a table view, a tablet or phone display. One last thing, if you're going to go down here and click on one of these stocks, it's going to throw you up. For example, let's open up Walmart. It's going to throw you up here. Okay, it's going to open up Walmart and throw you up again. I'm going to show you how you can do this. Now let's navigate again to our application memory. And let's take a look here because we're going to delete a couple of things. Let's say we're going to delete Amazon. Boom. So it's going to be deleted from the list. Let's delete Apple. Let's delete multiple things. You can see they're constantly being deleted. Let's also delete NVIDIA and NextEra Energy. And that's it. Now if I want to load the list, so we already saved a list. Now let's load it back again because this is going to stay in the memory. So if you want to load the list, then just load back that list and it's going to automatically be saved back to your local storage. Now if you would have a server, it's going to be saved back to a server. But as you can see, you can save your lists, your preferred lists, and then upload them later on if you wish so. You can also filter by sector, filter A to Z, sector, and Z to A, and that's basically it. So edit, delete, add, change, store, load, display detailed information. Okay, let's get started with the application. So now that we know what Vite is and what it's good for, let's also work on installing Vite and setting up our very first Vite project. At the end of the day, it's still a React project, but we're going to learn how to set up Vite. So let's get started by starting our terminal. Right now, I'm on a PC, meaning that I'm going to command tilde, meaning that I'm going to control tilde to open up a terminal. You can command tilde on a Mac, of course, or just go up here and start a new terminal. Now, in order to install Vite, as you saw in the presentation, we need to npm create Vite at latest, and that's it. Just hit enter. Now, please note that I'm in the main React course folder. So React course from HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I'm not creating a new folder. What we are doing right now, you can also create it with a lot of shortcuts telling it where to create, what to create, and what kind of framework to use. But for now, we're just going to create a new Vite project. We're going to give this project a name. This is going to be the stock wish list. Hit enter. Now it's going to ask you, make this terminal a bit larger, it's going to ask you what kind of framework do you want to use. Do you want to use a vanilla JavaScript framework? Because of course, you can just do modules here. We already talked about it. It's going to be perfect for using modules. Do you want to do a Vue framework, a React, Preact, Lit, Svelte, Solid, so far and so on. So using the arrows, we can just go to React, hit enter. Then it's going to ask us what kind of programming language are we going to use. Are we going to use TypeScript or JavaScript or Remix even? We're going to use the regular JavaScript. So let's go to JavaScript, hit enter. Now the project was created. Up here, you're going to see a stock wish list. Then you're going to see the public folder with just a little SVG. Then the source folder with our assets. You can drag your assets in here, images and so forth and so on. Then the app CSS, the app JSX, the index CSS, and the main JSX. You're also going to see your linter, git ignore, and your HTML. Let me close the source folder. And your index.html file out here, which is going to be the main entry point. Then you're going to see your package.json. And if we take a look in our package.json and scroll down to web dependencies, you're going to see here Vite 5.3.1. Of course, depending on which time you're watching this version should be later. Here is React 18.3.1. Now React 19 is coming out, and I'm going to, as soon as it's live, it's no longer in the beta, we're going to create, of course, here a update in this course about React 19 and what it contains. It's pretty cool, so stick around. And last but not least, we have our Vite config. As I told you, you can change here. Well, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to change here to Vue or something like that. But you could also change the port here. We're going to leave it as whatever port is going to give us. As I said, minute adjustments you can also do on your later on when you're going to dive deeper into Vite. But for now, the next step is to cd into the folder, so change directory, cd into stock, wishlist, then install the necessary dependencies. Because we're using React, we're going to install the node package module that is specifically for React, and then we're going to run the development server. So let's npm I, and this is going to take a couple of seconds, but it's much less than a normal React setup. You can also see there's going to compile just in a couple of seconds, going to be done with the installation, also with the installation of the modules. And it should be done right now. Okay, there we go. So 90 seconds, isn't that great? Okay, next up, let's start running the server. So we're not going to npm start, but we're going to npm run and dev, the development server. Okay, and now it's telling us that it just opened up server on the port localhost 5173. And if you hold down Control and click, then the server will be opened up for you. So here's the Vite project, our very first Vite project. Drag this to the side. Pretty simple. You can, let me go into the app. You're just going to see here a automatically brought in state with a counter, and just going to click around here, and it's going to work. Okay, so we have Vite set up. Next up, let's set up Tailwind CSS for Vite, and this is a bit different than setting it up for regular React project. So let's set up Tailwind CSS. Now let's set up or install Tailwind CSS. And this is the perfect opportunity to also stop the server. You can either open up a new terminal, but this could lead to problems, or you have to just restart the server. So I would suggest that you just stop the server. So I'm going to close out that terminal, Control or Command and C. And on a Mac, it's going to automatically stop, but on a PC, you just have to Y and enter. Okay, so we stop the server. We can try to refresh here. This is no longer working. Perfect. Next, let's npm, and just remember to be in your project. Okay, so npm I for install space dash capital D Tailwind CSS, and also install post CSS and auto prefixer. So there we go. So remember, npm I for installation as a dependency, Tailwind CSS, don't mess this up, post CSS, and auto prefix. Okay, now hit enter. This is going to take just a couple of seconds. Next up, after this is done, you're going to npx Tailwind CSS, and going to init-p, which is going to give us the Tailwind configuration JS folder. Okay, and there we go. There's our post CSS and our Tailwind config. Now in our Tailwind config, we're going to tell it where the content will live. So within here, you're going to open and close double quotations, then // it should always look for index.html HTML, then step out of the quotations, comma, and then also look for the dot source folder. So src /*/ and dot, and it doesn't matter if it's open and close curly brackets, doesn't matter if it's a JS folder or a JS file or a TS file or a JSX file or a TSX file. You should always look for this file extensions. Also, this should be a comma right here. Okay, let's save this. Don't forget to save. Close this one up. Now let's add the entry point for our Tailwind CSS file. So I would suggest just go to app, delete everything that is in here. Don't need it. Hit save. Now type in @Tailwind and import the base. Then just going to copy this 2 more times. Import the components and then the utilities. Okay. And that should be it. Now you can also close this one up. One last thing, go ahead and if you want to keep your index.css file, then keep it. I would suggest for now, just delete it. Go into your main, delete from here the index, the import of the index, because it's going to give you an error. It's no longer in there. Go to your app. Up here, we're going to delete, let's see, the SVG and this React import, and also delete here everything. Don't need this anymore. Okay, so you're just going to have here a div, and let's type in here an h1 with a title, and that's it. Okay, now we're going to go back down here and npm run and dev. Let's restart the server. And there we go. Title is up here. Nothing special is happening. So let's go ahead to go to our main div and let's add here class name of bg slate. And we're going to add a slate of 900, and this should change the background. Furthermore, let's add this to a container. So we're going to do here a container, then a container and MD, then a margin on the x-axis of auto. We're going to display everything as flex. We're going to change the text color, text to white. There we go. And right here before the flex, we're going to flex in a column direction. So flex call. Okay. So nothing special happening here. Let's now add a couple of changes to the title. We're going to go to the title, add the class of text and 3 times XL. This is going to give us a larger text. Let's change this font to bold and a margin to the bottom of 4. And boom, there we go. Okay, so we can see that this is working. Tailwind is installed. Tailwind is working. Again, if it's not working for you, then just restart the server. And we're going to move on and work on our app and also install React icons later on. So let's get started with our application. All right, so let's get started by creating the main app container and actually all of the main components of the application. So we're going to create the app container. Then we're going to have the header, which is actually this entire left part, and then the main container. Now in the header, we're going to have the title and the date. Then we're going to have this little widget, which is the stock detail widget. Then we're going to have here the stock chart widget. And down here, add new stock, of course, with 3 inputs and 1 little button. On the left side, or in the main container, we're going to have the stock list header, which is going to have the title, the description, a save button, and a load file button that is going to allow us to load new files or separate list to our application right here. Then we're going to have our stock table, the entire thing with the table list head, and going to contain the table list search, the filters, of course, and then we're going to have the main stock table body with the individual stocks and also their editing optionalities, or edit and delete optionalities, of course. So let's get started. I'm going to make this smaller. Here's also our view application opened. I'm going to drag and drop it to the right side. We have this open. And now let's go into our source. From here into app, we have a little container here, which has the class of container MD is going to change sizes, then marginal x, axis, auto, flex, display. We also flex, we have it in a column direction. And then when we're going to have multiple items, just as we have it here, and in a tablet view, then we want to display it in a row direction, or actually this is the column direction. And when we're going to go into a much larger size, oops, I just grabbed the wrong thing. That's going to be in the row direction. So in Tailwind CSS, this works a bit different. and meaning that I have to now specify everything that is above a large display should be then flex and row. Okay, and let's also add a gap here of 5. Now you're not going to see any changes because we don't have any elements in here, but we're going to add them just in a couple of seconds. Okay, so right above the title, let's create a header. We're going to add to this the class of flex and flex in the column direction. So just flex.flex-col, and then we're going to add a empty, which is a margin to the top of 2. Hit enter, and within here now I'm going to move up our h1 of title. This is going to be a XL4 now. Sorry about that. And let's type in here stock wish list. Okay, and we should see this up here. Perfect. Now also I'm going to close up the left part so we have more real estate here to work with. You can see the code is pretty large, and also going to close up or make the terminal as small as possible. If there are any kind of errors, I'm going to show them and explain them also. So this h1, again, I'm going to wrap it into another div, which is going to be a flex, because we want to achieve now this here. So this until right here is the header, but up here we're also going to have the title and the date. So I'm just going to create here another div that's going to contain that title and that date. So it's going to be displayed as flex with justify between, space between, and dot item center. Okay, now move the h1 up here, and after that I'm just going to type in here today's date as a component, which does not exist. So I'm just going to, first of all, I named it wrongly, so let me cut this out and create it. Open up your Explorer, and within your source create a new folder called components. Okay, and within here we're going to create a new file, call it today's date.jsx rfc, and just leave it as it is, and now import it down here as today's date. Okay, and it should also import it automatically up there. So we're going to see it on the right side. We're not going to add any kind of dates for now. We're just going to draw the whole application out and add each and every component, well, almost each and every component, to this as a draw out to our application. Now, right after this little fellow, we're going to have our Trading View widget, which is going to be this first one with the stock details. Oops, I meant to open you. So I'm just going to create here a div with the class of Trading View dash widget dash container and underscore and widget. Okay, and after that I'm going to give it a bg and dash gray dash 100 dot, going to round up the borders now with rounded dash md, and then margin bottom 2, and then a max height, the max that h dash 80. Okay, you're not going to see anything for now, so let me just add in here a stock details title, and there we go. Okay, also, the text color is irrelevant for now. Next, after this div, we're going to have the stock chart. So let's create on the right side. Let's open up create a new file. It's stock chart.jsx rfc. Perfect. And let's bring it in here. So the component of stock and chart. Okay. And there we have our stock chart. Perfect. Next, we need our search, or next we need our add stock option. Right after this one. So after our stock chart, we need our add stock optionality, meaning in components we create now a new component, so new file, add new stock.jsx rfc, and leave it as a div and just bring it in here. Okay, so stock add new stock, close it up, and also import it up here at import add new stock, and you should be good to go. Okay, we can also delete this count. So this was the header. Now let's create the main component. So on the main container, by creating a main tag, closing it up here. And within here, we're just going to have a stock list header and a stock table. So we're going to create both of them up here in the components with stock list header.jsx rfc. Hit save, bring it in here, stock list and header, close the component up. So there's a stock list header, and last but not least, the stock list table. So that's the last component we're going to create for now, and then we're going to move on. Stock list and table.jsx rfc, hit save, and bring it in here as the stock list and table. Now remember to check if everything is imported nicely. You should be good to go. Now from here, we're going to move on to create our button components and our input components. So the first component will be our button component. And we're going to go here in components, new component or new file, button.jsx rfc, then change this div into a button. We're going to replace the text here with children. Remember, children means that anything that's going to be passed in here will be treated as children. So we're going to take this and pass it in as a prop up here. Okay, now for the classes. So class name, I'm going to be opening those curly brackets and opening close backticks, because at the end, we're going to need a separate variable here of classes. Why am I adding this? I want to be able to add different classes, for example, the background color. So I can use this button without much complexity to just change a couple of colors. The dimension, the text style, the text color, and so far and so on is going to stay pretty much the same in the button. But I want the classes, so let's add them up here, to be, well, I want to have the possibility to manipulate those classes. But before that, we're going to add here text white as a text color, then the font of bold, then a padding on the y-axis of 1 and a padding on the x-axis of 2. We're going to round up the corners, so we're just going to add rounded, and let's also add a width of full. And when the button will have a XL screen, then we're going to change the width to auto. Width auto. Okay, and you know what? You only need one last thing, and that is the on click prop. So on click, and let's also go in here now. And if we have a click event here, then the on click prop will be passed in here. That's basically it. That's all that we need for our button. Now let's use a very first button, and we can use it in the add new stock component. So let's open up the add new stock component, and right down here we're going to just import a button. And remember that we need to use now open and close component, because we can now also add children. So whatever I'm going to add in here will be treated as a child. So if I pass in here a text, import the button. So import, it wasn't imported automatically. Import and button from right in here, because we have a button right here, and we should already see, well, nothing. But if I add a text of add, then we're going to see our button right here. Okay, now, as I told you, the classes will be now affected by whatever we add in our classes prop here. So let's just add, you can either use curly brackets or not, but I'm going to use here the string of bg-teal and 500. And then when I hover over the button, so hover, then it should be bg-teal-700. Okay, you should already see our button change here. And I messed up the 500, 400. I have too many opened. Let me just a couple of things. So space here, and there we go. Okay, so I didn't leave here enough space. So there we go. The button teal is added. And as you can see, if I would now change the width of this, then the button would snap back to a smaller size. So this really much depends on the width of the container. Okay, we don't have any kind of click event right now, so I go in here and leave it as it is. Although at this point, I can now open up a new server, open up a new, not server, but terminal, and let's cd into our project. So cd into doc, and within here, we're going to npm I react icons, because we need here an icon. It's not going to be add, it's going to be a plus sign. Okay, so I'm just going to, that's it, finished. Bring this down here. Now maybe a server restart will be required. We're going to find it out just in a couple of seconds. And now let's import, open and close curly brackets. We're going to import IO, and oh, it's working perfect. So IO and not from here, IOMD, add and circle. And it's going to be just from IO, not IO5. I'm going to use this little fellow. Now here, instead of add, I'm going to use this as a component. So as a open and close IO, copy it and close it up here. And you should already see that little icon. Now you can increase size of this by going to a size. It has already built-in props of 25, and you should be able to increase it. Now we quickly go back to the button, and right after XL and auto, we're going to add display flags. and then items center, and justify content as center also. Okay, and this should now center your icon or whatever content is in there. Perfect. Now let's create also a input component. So let's go into components, right click, new file, call it input.jsx rfc, create a React functional component. We are not going to use a div, we're going to use a open input tag here, close it up there. Now let's work on, first of all, the type of the input tag will be text. If you don't have anything, it still will be text, but I'm going to leave the possibility here. Now for the value, we're going to add a prop as value. So let's move the prop up here. Whatever value will be passed into the input tag will be addressed here as a property of the input tag then later on. Now we're going to add a onChange event. The onChange event will be whatever onChange event will be passed in here as a prop. Pass it in as a prop. Then we're going to add a placeholder also as a prop. We're going to give this multiple definitions. So passing it here as a prop. And we're going to only use it once, but it's very important to add the reference. So ref and ref. Pass the ref up here. I want to be able to focus this prop whenever I'm adding a new item. Okay, now for the classes. So should I do it up here? Yeah, I'm going to do it. Class name. Let's go ahead. Let's create a BG gray and 500. Then on a hover, we're going to have a BG-gray-300. And what I'm going to already import it into add new stocks. So this was the button. With this, we're going to bring in here a input tag, input component. This is now brought in up here. So there's our input components. We can see what we're styling. That. Okay, now when we're going to focus on a hover, you can see color changing. On a focus, we're going to do a BG gray and 300. So basically, if we hover it is one thing. If I click in it, focus is going to change the background color to, oh, not 300, sorry about that, 100. So this is hover, this is focus. Okay, now for the text, we're going to go with the text dash slate and 700. And we're going to round up the borders, so round it with MD. Let's add a margin to the right because each and every input tag then should have a bit of a margin here. The next one should have a margin here and then the button at the end. So rounded MD and MR margin right of 2, a padding on the x-axis of 2 and a padding on the y-axis of 1. Perfect. There we go. There's a little input tag now. Now I'm going to stop here. That's pretty much it for these. You can copy them multiple times, but I don't want to do that right now because we're going to work then on the adding functionality later on. Next up, let's work on this today's date. Okay, so let's work on today's date, but first I think I'm zoomed in too much here. Yeah, that's much better. I had this at 200% and this at 150%. Okay, now let's go back here. So I'm going to close up the, you know what, let's just multiply 2 more times and let's wrap this into a div. A section. I could also use here of a div a section, and let's add quickly a class here of display flex. So flex to a margin to the bottom of 4, and then very important that we also display this accordingly. So I'm in a small screen flex dash call, and MD will be flex dash row, and then we're going to add a gap of just 2. Okay, there we go. We're going to make this larger than it should be in a row direction. You can always see the flex happening also on the right side. Boom. Okay, we got this out of the way. I can just close this up for now. Button, that's it. Input, that's it. App, and oops, this should be our trading view. Okay, let's start working on our today's date, which is again a component, and it's pretty simple. It's going to be a formatter here. So save this, open this up on the right side, and let's create here a new component, today's date.jsx. Actually, it already exists. Oh, damn it. Sorry about that. Okay, so we got this. Now let's create here a new date component. So we're going to go ahead, const current date, and assign this to new date object. And then we're going to just format it very quickly. So const format date. And this is going to be equal to the current date, of course, dot to local date string. So I just want the date string without a time. Now right here, let's add this in here. So formatted date. Let's add a bit of style to it. Okay, so let's add classes of text-xl font bold. Now remember, you can change this if you want, giving you my vision of the project here. Obviously, you can style it as you wish. Margin on the y-axis of 3, a padding on the x-axis of 2, a padding on the y-axis of 1, a rounded MD, and then a BG gray 300, and then we need to change the text color, so text dash slate and 900. Okay, there we go. I don't this. Let's go with 1. Okay, there we go. I think I'm still missing something in the container that I wanted to look. Give me just a second. Well, yeah, because we still have our general reset. We haven't done our general reset, so you can open up your main, your app CSS. Just do here a body. Let's change the entire behavior of this body. So let's do a margin 0 for the entire body. And then we're going to change the background color to exactly the same colors they have here, the slate color. So I'm going to use the hexadecimal color for it. So 0F172 and A. Get now the entire color. Let's also do a color for the text. The text is fine. So you should get now the same result. Okay, so we did our date, and that's pretty much it that I wanted to do for this part. Next up, let's add our very first widget here. So let's take a look at Trading View. So that's tradingview.com. And on this website, you can find a couple of gadgets. You're going to go to Options, More, Company, and then For Business and All Widgets. Then under All Widgets, you're going to find somewhere down here that specific widget that we need, but not quite, because you cannot find it as a React code. But no worries, I'm going to show you how you can transform it into a React code, or basically just type it out on your own. So where do we have that simple? We have this one, not this one. Charts, the detail charts. Where's the detail chart? This one, symbols. There you go. So get the widget, just click on it. This is going to be symbol info. Now by default, we're going to use a whatever symbol you wish, basically the code. You can just copy the code and paste it into your React application. The only problem is this right here is HTML and JavaScript, and we need a React code. So no problem. We're going to transform this into a React code, but first we need to do a couple of things. So we're going to use here use effect. So we have here use state. No worries, we're going to use state, but later on. So use effect, and we need use effect because in the moment that this is going to be initiated, we want here have this display. Now we're going to display the S&P 500 E-mini futures. We do not have access to the S&P 500 normal, only to the futures. It's basically the same, just futures is going to be constantly opened day and night. Here a E, not a D. And so let's just get started. So we're going to use effect, and let me just show you the code very quickly. So this is basically telling you you're going to the container, we already have that container. So what we're going to do is create a const here for a script tag. The same script tag, just a variable for script, and it's the script tag that you see down here. Now we need the type as text and JavaScript. Now, you cannot copy from here. If you copy something from here, it's going to copy everything. Just trust me. Create first of all a variable script. Then we're going to create the element of script tag by using document.createElement, and we're going to create here a script element. Next, we're going to create the type of the script element. So script.type. We're going to assign this to a text/JavaScript. Next, we're going to add the source. So script.source, so src. And we're going to assign this, and you can just copy it. Let's copy this from up here. There we go. So it's HTTPS, and you should have here not this, but as you can see here a //s3. So delete www, but s3 tradingview.com. Instead of widgets and docs, you should have here external dash embedded thing, not edit, embedding. Then we're going to delete everything that's here. Embedding /embed dash widget dash symbol dash info and .js. Okay, so that is the source from where we're going to draw our information. Now we're going to add to the script tag a.async. We're going to set this to true so it can constantly draw information. And now for the script.innerHTML, we're going to open and close backticks, add a couple of parameters. So open and close curly brackets. And within here, we're going to add a symbol. This is going to be key value pair. So the symbol will be the ES1 and exclamation mark and close, comma, and the rest of them I'm just going to copy and paste them in and type them out. Oops, but in here, and we're going to have, so the width of this widget will be the same width as it is its entire container, so 100%. The local will be English, the color theme will be light, and is transparent will be set to true, so it's going to be able to get the same color as the background color. Okay, now we're not done. Still within our use effect, we're not going to grab on to the trading view widget, so on and so on, class. So copy this class, go in here, create a variable for it, so const container is equal to document.querySelector. We're going to select now the class, so open close double quotations, dot for class, and grab onto this little fellow, then move outside of here, and just see that if this container exists, then first of all, delete everything that's in the container. So container.innerHTML will be an empty string. And after that, reassigned to container.append child. And now we're going to append our little script tag. Script. Okay. Now hit save, and you should see here error because this is gone. And now you should see here the stock, the SMP e-mini future. Next up, let's create a default chart component. The default stock chart component is going to be here, the stock chart. So let's go ahead. Let's here, new file. We're going to call this stock chart.jsx. Oh yeah, it already exists. Why am I creating components that already exist? So stock chart, and let's move to our stock chart. So things we need here after React, we need our use effect again, or use ref. So two hooks. We're going to need in here the symbol as a prop, which is then going to be pushed down here to our chart. Now let's use our use effect. Use effect, opening, close, and there we go. Now our use effect will actually influence, again, almost the same chart, will affect our trading view widget. This time is going to be a chart, not a symbol detailed. Now in here, in our return, we're going to return again a trading view widget container. So let me just show you this very quickly. We're going to return, let's move back here, and we're not going to return a symbol, but we're going to return a chart. So let's scroll up. Oh, where's the chart? Chart. There we go. There's our simple or a bit more advanced chart, but we won't need all of the details from here. So let's go to get widget. Now those is going to seem a bit complex. Show you what the code looks like. And this time we have React code. So I'm just going to, well, I cannot copy here, copy the entire code, paste it underneath of here. We have enough real estate because we're actually just going to snip out things. So first of all, the return. Let's cut this out, it up here in our return. Let's play around with it. So bum, bum, bum. We don't need this part, delete it. We only need this part, this entire container. So div with trading view widget container, the ref, this is important. It's a bit different than, actually this is the React way of referencing something, referencing a specific element in the code. You're going to leave this trading view widget here. Don't replace anything, but you can delete this style from here. Okay, so this is done. Now let's go down here again, this use effect, and let's actually start from the bottom. So we need everything that is from here, from the container upwards till here. We're going to cut it out, paste it into our use effect. The use effect will now depend, so where does effect end? Down here. Our use effect will now depend, so right after the curly brackets, don't forget to add a comma, open and close square brackets, and the symbol. Okay, and you can delete everything that's down here now. Delete the fellow. Boom. Okay, so this should now work. Now let's go through this. right after the container, you're going to, actually before the container, you're going to go up here and say that container.current.innerHTML, and first of all, assign it to absolutely nothing. Now, why are we doing this? Well, pretty simple, because if we load a different, you'll see just a couple of seconds, if we would load a different value here, this is the symbol. For now, it's Apple. We're going to load the NASDAQ here. But if we're going to load a different symbol, then we want this to be replaced. So when the function runs, it's going to first of all assign it to absolutely nothing, then assign it to whatever is here in our script. Okay, so let's go through this again. Here, container. Did not create a container up here. First of all, const container is equal to use and ref. Okay, just leave it there. So we created our container. We're referencing that container. Now in our use effect, we're going to create a script again. We're going to send this to, this is correct, embedding, embed, script and chart this time. Chart, script that is text, script, async is true. Now down here, so outer size true, symbol, we're going to pass in here now the symbol. Take care, I'm not using backticks, but it's the same thing this time. So symbol, interval, this is daily, this is the UTS. Going to leave this as dark, style 1, location English. One more option that I want you to add after location is this one, is with data range. Set this to true. Allow symbol change, of course. Set this to false this time, and calendar false, and port host is Trading View. Okay, now we just need to bring this component into applications. Go back to application and bring it. It's already brought in, so we should already see it. There we go. But one little problem is that we're missing the symbol. So we have our prop, go up here, so stock chart. We have a prop and it's missing the symbol. So the symbol will now depend on what kind of chart is open, because we don't have, as in our finished project, you see it's the NASDAQ as default, and if I open something different up, like Apple, it's going to give me the Apple chart and also here the app details. This means we need to assign it to something. So we need to assign it to a state. The state will be a open chart state. So open chart, up is, save it, go up, and create here a state for it. So const, then open chart, and then set open chart. And I'm going to use now here a default value for use state. And let's assign this to the NASDAQ, which has the, actually it's the NASDAQ futures, which has the ticker symbol of NQ1 and exclamation mark. And now we should get, save, should get here NASDAQ. Perfect. So the same thing. Okay, so we're done with the default chart. Later on, we're going to be able to change it. So next up, let's start working on our stock list header, and then the table and everything that contains here the stock list. So let's all again and move to our project. We can actually close this chart with anymore. So down here is where our work will happen. We can close up the stock chart, state. We don't need them anymore. Open up here the components. Let's first of all move into the stock header. Stock header, stock list header, that is. We're going to import our button, change this div to a section with the class name of stock-list-header. Let's start working on our header. First things first, I'm going to add here just a simple HR, and actually I'm going to also add to this a class name of margin bottom of 4. Okay, so go. Then I'm going to copy it, and now between these two, I'm going to create a div. This div will have a class of flex, then a justify between, and a dot item center. Okay, meaning that we just created this container. Container will have now a title and a text here. So for the title, stock list. For the text, this right here. Go back to the code. First, we're going to create an h3 with the class of text-teal-500, then dot text 3 times XL, then font -bold, and a margin bottom of 2. And we're going to type in here stocks list. After that, we're going to have a paragraph tag with the class of text-slate-500 and a margin to the bottom of 4. And for the text, I'm going to copy the text with click on the stock, edit or delete or click on the stock symbol, open the stock widget. Okay, this should be in a separate div. So we're going to add here a div and just move the h3 and the paragraph tag in here. Now for our second element in this flex container, we're going to have our actions. So create another div, going to contain one input tag. So we have already our button component brought in. We're going to use it, button, open and close. Remember that we can add different colors to the button. So I'm just going to use still the teal color, but let's add a text of save list. And now let's add a bit of style to it, to class name of PG, teal, and 500. Also on hover, have PG, teal, and 700. Now don't forget to add a bit of a margin to the right, to the bottom, in order to have this same effect. Okay. Now this will be the save button, which will save then the list. We're not going to add the functionality right now. And after this one, we're going to have an input tag. Now I'm not going to use the input component because the type of this input tag will be actually file. After that, we're going to have another property which is accept, and we're going to only accept a .json extension. Now on change, this is going to take in the event. So let's create here arrow function, taking the event, and then from here let's start building a little file. So const file, have here open and close curly brackets. So const file, this file will be the e.target.file and files, and then the very first one, so 0. Now we need a reader, so const, let's create our reader. Reader is equal to new file reader, create the object here, and then we're going to assign to the file reader a onload. So the reader dot onload, what am I doing? Reader dot onload will take in the event, then use an arrow function, and now you can take its content. So create a const of content, assign it to the e.target.result. Now we need to parse the data. Remember, we're getting a JSON file, so const parse data, and we're going to assign this to json.parse, and then the content. Okay. Now the last thing that we actually need to do here, actually two more things. As soon as we loaded this data and parse the data and so on and so on, we need to set it something, and that is to set it to the stocks, which you don't have right now, but I'm going to take care of this. So let's create here a setter. So set, this is going to be for a state. So we're going to create a state right after this. So set stocks, and we're going to set the stocks to the parse data. Okay, moving out of this, the reader dot read as text, and it should read the file. So I know this does not make a lot of sense right now, but wait for it. I'm going to take care of this just a couple of seconds. So we need that setter to be passed in here as a prop. So set stocks. Now go up into the app, create a state of stocks, const, close square brackets, stocks, and set stocks. Decide to use state, and we're going to assign this to a empty array for the time being. So basically, when we're going to load new stocks, it's going to replace the complete list. Now, if we're already here, let's also send down into our set stocks the prop to also save the stocks. So save stocks list to JSON, so JSON, and we're going to take this and send it in here into our on click. We're going to create a callback function, arrow function, and we're going to initiate here the function, and we're going to set it to a empty array when we're saving the stock list. Now this functionality does not exist, so if I click on it, nothing will happen. We're just going to see a couple of errors. We're going to take care of that later on. Okay, so we're done with this. Now let's move on and, oh wait, the input tag, got the stylist. So let's go back to the input tag. Let's add here a couple of styles. So class name, we're going to do a BG slate 400, then round it to MD, then PX, padding on the x-axis, padding on the y-axis of 1, and there we go. Okay, now this is trying to load the data. I could already load this stock data, and let me just say it. Well, it loaded the data, but it cannot load it anywhere, so just load it by reloading the application. So let's take care of the list right now. So let's start working on our stock list table. Now remember here, let's also put a note at add props to stock list header. I didn't add the props, so I added them here, the stock list header. So set stocks and save stocks, they are being pushed in here, but they're not being added here. If I add them here, that's going to result in an error because we do not have those functions yet. So this is why I'm not going to add them right now. Now let's work on our list table. So let's open that one up, close the stock header. The component is mostly done. So let's open up our little table. First things first, our table still needs a table head, which is this little fellow right here. Table head will have the symbol, the names, which is going to have two functionalities of sorting the names and also the sorting the sectors, and then the actions, which will only appear on a hover effect. So let's work on our table by creating first of all a table. Should I create a table header? Yeah, let's create a table header. So stock list table, create new component, file, stock list table header or table head. Let's leave a table head .jsx arfc, and let's return here a stock list. Let's also add it here. Let's change this to a section. Then let's go up here. Let's do a stock import a component of stock list table head. Close it up. We're not going to add any kind of props to it right now. Down here, we're going to have our search. Add to here to do, add search, then another to do, add table body. Perfect. Now let's work on our stock list table head. The left part, let's style it by displaying it as class name, going to be displayed as flex, justify with space between. Items will be center, so items and center. PG for the background, PG gray dash 100. You can already see taking effect down here. Let's now change the text color. Going to be a, let's choose a stone. Stone 900. Let's round off the borders, round it, MD. Going to stick to the same MD. Okay, so everything looks the same. Then a padding on the x-axis, this time 6, padding y-axis 2, margin bottom of 2, and font bold. Okay, there we go. Now, right after this, we're going to have here a h3 with a symbol. So remember, we're going to do, take a look at the finished project. We're going to do a symbol, name, a select here, and a action. Now, they're going to have each and every one of them different actions. So name and select a sector is different functionalities. So the symbol is just going to be a symbol. So next up, we're going to create a div, not an h3. And in this div, we're going to have two small tags. One small tag will be for A to Z. Copy this. The second one will be from Z to A. And within them, we're going to have an h3 with name. Should look something like this. Now these two small tags, I'm going to click in both of them, holding down Alt or Option on a Mac, Alt on a PC. And let's create here the class of cursor pointer, then text slate and 400, hover of text slate and 800, and that's pretty much it. Oh, text and text felt here. Sorry about that. Okay, so if I hover them, they're going to transform. Now the div here should be class name. We're going to display it as flex, items center, and of course, oops, the double quotation mark there, and the gap of 2. Perfect. Now I'm just going to copy this, our div. Instead of this h3, we're going to have a option. So we're going to create here option, going to be all sectors, and we're going to wrap this option, of course, into a select tag. So select, we don't need any kind of name or ID. Wrap this or push the options up here. Okay, now for select, let's style this as a class of border and border dash gray of 300, then rounded MD, and padding x-axis of 2 and padding y-axis of 1. Now, right after our options, right after our very first option, we need to add the rest of the options. So I'm just going to create here a option and just going to do here close option and ... multiple options. Okay, so this is where the rest of the options will live. Don't worry, we're going to create them, but we're missing a couple of information. For example, the stock themselves. Okay, and last but not least, this little div, we're going to have the last h3, which is going to be actions. Okay, so all four of them are now in here. Okay, so I'm going to stop now with the header. We're not going to add any kind of functionalities. I'm going to move down to the body. So let's move on to the table. So don't close the stock list table head. We're going to come back to this, but now let's start working on our stock table body. First, let's pass down, because we're going to need it, a couple of minutes, stocks. So stocks are important because they're dependency on, so I'm going to take stocks, pass it down here as a prop. So stocks is the prop, and I'm going to assign it to, close curly brackets, to the stock, to the state. Now stocks are being now sent down, and they are currently just an empty array. Don't forget, we set the state of the stocks to an empty array. Go down in the table, accept them here as stocks. And now let's start working here on our table by creating a UL. The UL is going to have, now I'm going to assign a style to it. So a min height of 70 viewport heights. So 70 viewport heights. If you're asking yourself, why am I not doing this using Tailwind CSS? Well, there's a bit of a problem with this specific height functionality. Okay, but I'm still going to add Tailwind CSS classes, being that this is going to be a container and a container-md. And we're going to set here in our finished project, possibility to be scrolled, meaning that we're going to set the overflow, VM, we're going to set overflow on the y-axis as scroll, and to permit here us to scroll through our list. Okay, now let's go into our list. For now, I'm going to add here the stocks, but just so you know, these are going to be replaced by filtered stocks. Okay, so stocks, we're going to map over our stocks. For each stock, we're going to assign arrow function, open parenthesis, and let's create now our stock by creating a li. So open and close li. The key for each li will be the stock dot symbol. So I'm not going to use an ID or something like that, but the symbol. Let's style the stock a bit by adding class name, and there's going to be some styling. It's going to be a lot. So open and close curly brackets, open and close backticks, and we're going to display as grid. Why? Well, because as you can see in our finished project, we're going to have here multiple elements on multiple situations, multiple actions here, and I do need grid for this. So display it as grid, the grid dash column. So this is like grid template columns. We're going to have 4 columns. We're going to have a gap of 2 between those columns. The items will be displayed as center. We're going to change the background now to a BG slate 900. On a hover effect, we're going to decrease it to a BG gray dash 300. The text will be white. On a hover again, the text will turn to gray and 900. We also use slate, of course. We're going to round everything up to a MD. Now let's add padding on the x-axis of 4, padding on the y-axis of 2. Border will be now a border button of 2, and the border color border will be a gray color of 800. Okay, so we're going to have this nice effect here. There's a different element. Now you can't see anything right now because we're missing here some sort of information. Now we're not done. We had this in a hover in backticks because we want to use here now that if we're hovering over the items, only then will the edit and the delete button appear. So let's do this by adding here a state. So if this is hovered item, so if this is a hovered item, meaning that it is the same as the stock dot symbol, then we're going to add to this the hovered class, and if not, then it's going to be nothing. Now for this hovered class, or for this hover state, we're going to go up here, create a state, const, also import use state, bring it in, const hovered, and set hovered. Assign it to use state, and this is going to be null for the start. Now let's go back to our item, and this is pretty simple. We're just going to add here a on mouse enter. We're going to set now the state, so use a arrow function here, set hover word. We're going to set this to the stock dot symbol. Okay. And then on mouse leave, so basically when we're leaving the mouse, when we're leaving the element with our mouse, then we're going to reset the state to null. So set hovered to null. Okay. Now we don't have the stock symbol. So this could result in an error if I try to do something here. And also we don't have any kind of element right now. Now let's pass in here the stock. First things first, what we need, if we take a look in our finished project, is, well, the entire container. And then we need the symbol, then the name, then the sector, and then the actions. So let's get started by creating here a div with a class of call span free, meaning that in my grid system, I want this element to span 3 columns. Also, I want it to display as flex. And then I'm going to justify the content with space between. Okay, now in here, this is going to be the element itself. We're going to have our stock symbol. So in an h4 with the class of font dash bold dot cursor pointer, because remember, if I'm going over this symbol, I want the color to change and also to be able to click it and then display me a new, but I want this symbol to have the cursor pointer, display me then the information. So cursor pointer, then we're going to have a bg teal of 500, a hover of bg slate dash 700, dot text color will be gray dash 100, a padding on the y-axis of 1, and a padding on the x-axis of 2. The borders are rounded, so rounded dash md, and hit enter. And within here is going to be the stock dot symbol, which is nothing right now. But let's just add here stock symbol as a text. Now, because we don't have anything in our array, we can't see anything, I would suggest that you do the following. Copy this div, then comment out a thing right here, and just type in here an li and pass this div in here, and also comment out this, or yeah, comment it out. So you should see now the stock symbol. Ooh, couple of brackets. Oh yeah, because okay, so you should see now this little stock symbol. You won't see from the li this class, so could copy the class, but we'll miss a couple of things. Oh yeah, you know what? Let me still take the li and paste it in here, and we don't have the stock. Oh, this is not good. Also, if I hit save, I'm just going to just leave to error. So put this and delete also this. Okay, now you can see the item as it is intended to be styled. So we're going to work on this and then just copy it back in here after we're done. So you can basically see something. There's not much more to our stock symbol. Next, we need the name, which is basically just going to be, again, right after that h4, another h4, and within here, class name of font dash bold, and I'm going to pass in here the stock dot name, and hit save. Would result in an error, so I'm going to do stock name and comment this out, and then we're going to delete this and pass this and comment this back in. Next, we're going to have in a span tag the sector, so not in a span, in a small, and then add dot as for the classes text slate dash text dash slate and 500. Then add in here the stock. I'm just going to type it in here as this sector, and you're going to see stock sector here. Perfect. And last but not least, we need our actions, and they are going to be after this div. So let's create another div, this time with the call dash span dash 1, then flex, and then dot justify dash end. Okay. Also within here, and we're going to have the same question if this is hovered, and then we're going to have a couple of buttons. So we're almost done. What I'm going to do here is just type in here hovered, and if it is hovered or it's the same as a stock dot symbol, then comes actually the interesting part. Now we're just going to create a empty open and close curly brackets, open and close element, and we're going to bring in here a button element. So button, let's add to the button a class name, classes of bg slate and dash 800. And within here as children, just going to add quickly the icon of capital M and D and brush. And this should be brought in here automatically. Okay, we already see it. Okay, it's brought in. We can see it right now because we're asking this question, and that's why we can see it. Okay, and also I would like to add the size of 20 to this. Here also, when we're going to hover, so back to the classes, on a hover state, we're going to have a bg slate and 700 and a mr margin to the right of 1. And as I said, if I wouldn't have, so if I quickly take out this button, copy and paste it in here in the div, you should see it. Okay, so there's our button. Slate 700. Why isn't this working? Oh yeah, it is. Perfect. Okay, so you're seeing the button, and to copy and paste this button one more time, I'm going to change this to bg and red 800, red 700, no margin to the right. And then this is going to be a IO, the icon, MD, and remove and circle. Okay, and you should see the delete button. Perfect. I'm going to move both of them back up here. They're going to be gone. They're going to disappear. Oh, closing tags. So there we go. Wait. Nope. You're up here. Okay. So we can see them only if we activate our hover. And have the same symbol. Now you saw what we just did. We are still missing a couple of things here, the events, but we are going to work on them later on when we can change, when we have actual stocks. So for now, I'm going to actually leave it as it is and then bring it back into here where there should live. And that's it for now for our stock body. We're going to now take care of the stocks themselves. Right now, let's start working on adding stocks to the list. For this, we're going to go in our app, and here we're going to create a couple of states for the stock. So we have the stock state and set stocks. That's perfect. But we need to set states for when we're adding new stocks. And those stocks will have, because this is going to be actually the storage of the stock, we're going to have a state for the stock name, symbol, and sector. I'm going to start up with the stock. So const and new, we're going to call it new stock symbol, and then of course set new stock symbol. Let's assign it to a state, so use state, and we're going to assign it to nothing. I'm going to copy this one time, and then set new stock instead of symbol name, change this to name, and I'm just using Control D or Command D to select both of them. So let's copy this one more time and set new stock and select name again and sector. Okay. Also, I'm going to now import useRef and set here, because we want to focus on the very first input field whenever we add a stock, or we already added one. But in order to refocus on this input field, we're going to create here const and then input ref, and we're going to use ref in order to refocus on the field. So we're going to set this to null. We're going to use this later on when we're going to create a functionality. Actually, you know what? Let's create the functionality. So we're going to create here comment, add new stock to the list. Now let's create the handler, const handle, add stock. We're going to assign it to an arrow function. And from here, we're going to start out, first of all, with some verifications. We want to check if those fields are not empty. Else, so if those fields are not empty, meaning that if new stock symbol, and don't forget to use here dot trim, because I want to avoid checking for white spaces. So if this is not a empty string, let's go down here, copy this, then and if new stock name is not an empty string, and if the end symbol again, copy it, paste it in, delete that end symbol because don't need it anymore. And if the stock sector is not an empty string, then do something will happen here. And else, we're going to use here just a simple, we're not going to create an alert component, something like that. We're going to use the window alert, else alert that please fill all the fields. Okay, now let's add here a bit of logic. We need to cover three important steps. First of all, the stock symbol that we're going to add here needs to be uppercase. When you're searching for a stock symbol, it's always sort of the ticker symbol of the stock is always uppercase. So let's first of all, let me here convert symbol to uppercase. Let's do this. We're going to create a const symbol and we're going to assign it to new stock symbol dot use to uppercase. Simple as that. Uppercase. Okay. Next, we're going to check if the stock doesn't already exist in the list because you don't want to create duplications. So create another comment here with check if stock already exists in the list. And I had there a couple of misspells, so stock already there and exist in the list. Perfect. So how can we check it? Well, we're going to take our list. So if the stock dot name, we're going to use here so in our if statement, we're going to use the stock and sum dot sum. As you can see here, is going to determine is going to return to us a boolean, meaning that if whatever we pass in here, in our case the stock arrow function, because it's using a callback function, so is the stock dot symbol is equal to the symbol that is passed in here, and we're checking now the uppercase, then alert that and backticks that the stock symbol already exists in the list. So this is very important because if you don't do this check, then you're going to have duplications. Okay, now the next check that we need to do is the next thing that we need to do, if this is not true, if this is true, then we're going to refocus here. So refocus on input. Okay, so just input ref.current.focus, and that's it. Now else, well, else we need to add the stock to the stock list. So we're going to use the setter, so set stocks, and we're going to open and close parentheses, and in a array, we're going to use now the spread operator, so update the stocks, and then specifically update symbol, or add new symbol, then name will be new stock name, and of course sector will be new stock and sector. Okay, simple as that. And after we've done, we obviously need to clear the fields. So right here, so jump out of your else state, remain in your else statement here, and then reset inputs. Okay, so we're going to set new stock name to nothing, and we're going to do the same to set new stock symbol and set new stock sector. We've started with the symbol. It doesn't matter, but I do like it to have a specific order here. Symbol is the first thing that we're adding. Okay, so all of them will be reset. Now, I'm going to use this opportunity to go back to stock list table and take everything that we did here and actually insert it back here. So this is going to be a big one. I hope don't mess this up. So be very careful with what you're going to do next. Remember, we're going to take this li. This is this little fellow right here. I think that's already, yep, that's already okay. And we need now to, wait, we had here the div conspan, just find content, okay. We had here this, the symbol and the name. So check where we left off. Okay, so symbol is here. Uncomment this. Don't hit save. I think you're going to get an error. Let me hit save first. No, we're not getting an error because we are getting now the stuff. Stocks are now passed in here. Check this. Are they? Stocks, yes, they are passed in here. We didn't add any kind of stocks, but I do want to finish this. So we're missing the buttons. That's for sure. Copy the buttons, pass them in here. Create here the conditions. So now we're going to add that this is correct. This is correct, the two buttons, this and this. I'm going to just make this smaller. That's the symbol, and we're missing the sector. And the sector should be, so cut this out, delete it from here. And stock symbol name, and then add the sector because we have a lot of work to do with the sector. Okay, so I think we could add it right now. I'm going to this one out. We don't need it. Oh, delete it. Okay, so this is correct. This is correct. We're missing the sector because right after the symbol comes, oops, stock name. We're missing the stock name. So copy stock name, add it here. Okay, delete this, comment this back in. Now go up here and delete the li. Okay, now you shouldn't be able to see it anymore. So we have our stocks, stock name here, stock, just stock. Okay, so stock symbol, stock name, because we're extracting from here a single stock. Okay, now let's move back to add stock, pass it down here in our add stock component. So let's open up the add stock component. So right here, add stock. We're going to accept here now as props new stock symbol and also the setter of set new stock and symbol. Now let's add it here on input. So value will be new stock symbol. Now on change, we're going to take the event and pass it here in our set new stock symbol. And we're just going to take that event dot target dot value, and dot is very important to uppercase, and function here, and this is going to set wherever we pass in here automatically as uppercase. Now for the placeholder, we're going to add here enter stock symbol. Okay, you should see it now here. And you can now use the ref. For the ref, we're going to use the ref, the input ref. Also need to pass in here. Okay, so this is the very first one. Next comes the new stock name. So I'm going to copy those, place them here, then select both of them and then name. And we can just copy everything that we have, value and on change. And yeah, just copy it this way and then delete the to uppercase from it. Okay, and now this will be stock and name, of course. Okay, let's also add now the stock sector. So change these two to stock of name, select them both and sector. Copy these fellows. Oh, right, the placeholder, forgot to add the place. Enter stock name here, copy these fellows and paste them into the input field and just change it to stock and sector. Okay, change this to lowercase. Now for the button, we need to add now the event. So here on click, we're going to use our handle add stock. Let's also accept it up here as a prop. And now all we need to do is pass all of them down, back to our app. Let's go back to our application. And right here, we need now to new stock name is new stock name. Then the setter set new stock name is set new stock name. Then new symbol should start with symbol is new symbol. Set new symbol is set new symbol. I'm basically using the same naming conventions. Then I forgot the ref. Well, can use it here. Input ref is input ref. Set, not set, but new stock sector is new stock sector. Set new stock sector is set new stock sector. Say that very quickly 3 times. And then add new handle add new stock is handle add new stock. Okay, now let's try this. If I click on this, I should get an alert. There we go. There's the alert. Please fill out all fields. Let's add here APPL, Apple, Inc., and then technology. Let's just type in here technology. Oh wait, I want to be correct. This should be follow up. Search for Apple, APPL. There we go, Apple. And yes, Apple is in sector. There's the electronic and technology. Take this and copy it in here and add it. And an error because fact console or the item is not defined. Good. So let's go here back to our stock table and hover item. Okay, hovered. Where I went wrong here. Hovered item. Can I set the state for this? Yes, hovered. Oh wait, hovered item. Oh geez. So sorry about that. You need to replace this with hovered item or just replace it with hover. So hovered and set hovered item. Setter, where's the setter? Set hovered item is here and hovered item. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's try this again. So APPL, Apple, Inc. And we said that this was the electronic and technology sector. So either you type in electronic and technology or just add it like this. And another error. Now hovered is not defined. Of course, because we have it one more time. So here hovered item again. Okay, so I'm just going to add something in here. Doesn't matter. Okay, there's a stock. Perfect. So there's a very first stock. Also, if you click on it, well, it should send you up here and so on and so on. We still need to add that property. But something's not right. Our delete and edit buttons are not showing on the hover effect. So let me just check this really quickly. So hovered and the symbol thing that was added, the buttons should be displayed and they are not. And that is because right here we have hovered item and it's looking for stock. So it should be stock.symbol. Okay, now it's working. And one last thing, we need to add this now into curly brackets because it's looking for the sector. So see here, messed up the sector. I didn't mess up the sector. I just typed in some gibberish. Okay, so this is working. We can now add items to the list. So next up, let's try to edit items. The perfect opportunity for us to edit these. So we're going to go to our button for editing. This is the IOMD brush, and right in here, add. So right after the classes, we're going to add an onClick. And for this onClick, we're going to use, callback function. And within here, we're going to create, first of all, a couple of prompts, actually 2 prompts. We cannot change the symbol because the symbol, if you mess up the symbol, I would suggest that you just delete the stock, because the symbol is also the key of the stock. Basically, the key in your map, you always need to assign it as a key. So we are always referring to some kind of ID or symbol. So I chose the symbol as the ID basically. So the fixed point that we're always referring to when we're searching for something in an array. Okay, so let's create now a const. We're going to call it new name in order to edit the new name. And we're going to use here prompt. So prompt, and the prompt will tell us that enter new name and then comma stock.name. Okay, now for the sector, we can do the same thing. So const new sector, and then the stock sector. Now after these 2 fellows are completed, we're going to create a function. We're going to call upon the handler. So handle edit stock, and within here we're going to pass in these 2 updates. First, we're going to take a look at the stock.symbol, and then we're going to take the new name, assign it to it, and the new name and the new sector. Okay, now we need to create this handler. So first things first, we're going to pass it up here, props. So oops, got here the comma. Now let's go outside, go up to our app. We're in the table now. So here the handle edit stock will, handle edit stock. Now let's create this handler. Go up, 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 up after adding stock. So where do we have it? Add new stock to the list. Perfect. I'm going to make this smaller. Close this up and then edit stock. Okay, now const handle edit stock, add a callback function, and this will be pretty simple. Remember, this is going to accept 3 arguments. That will be wait, I can add stock. I'm going to close this. That will be to just copy this symbol, name, and sector. So new the stock, the symbol, name, and sector, and this right now should be actually stock symbol. Okay, because we're going to search for the stock symbol here. Stock symbol, new name, new sector. These are the 3 things that we're looking for. Okay, now we're going to create here a function that is going to update the stock. So update or updated stock, actually stocks will be the stocks.map is going to accept here a stock. We're going to search now for the stock that we're looking for. So let's create here a if statement. If the stock that is going to be passed in here, stock.symbol, is equal to the symbol that we're passing in here, the name and type is the same, then we're going to explicitly return the stocks. So we're going to update this spread operator, update the stocks, and add here symbol will be the stock symbol. Then the name will be either the new name or, what am I doing here? Or the or operator, the stock.name. Now, why am I doing this? Well, because you can opt to not update the name, but only update the sector, or not update the sector, but only update the name. So I'm just going to copy this, rename this to sector, then change these sector, and you should capital S, and also user should be sector. Okay. Now, after this is done, go outside here and return the stock. So return the newly updated stock. Now go outside of this updated stock function. And now we're going to use the setter for the stock. So set stocks. We're going to set here in the stocks array the updated stocks. That's it. Meaning that actually now if I can, I'm going to click on this edit button, it's going to ask me add a new name. This is going to be Apple Inc. Enter. We're going to jump now to the stock. I'm just going to copy it once again. Electronic technology. Okay, electronic technology. Enter, and there we go. Both of them are updated. Now you cannot update the symbol because you cannot search for something that you're trying to update. Simple as that. Okay, so that's basically it for updating this part. Now we can move on to deleting the stock or removing a stock from the list. Okay, now let's remove a stock. I'm going to type in here another comment. Just edit stock, smaller. Then let's remove stock from list. Let's create a const, create a handler, handle remove stock. Assign it to an arrow function. We're going to look for the stock symbol again, so we know what to refer to. And first things first, you always need to create here a verification. So are you sure you want to delete the stocks, not that the user just clicks on it and then it's deleted? Maybe he wanted to delete something else, so didn't want to delete it at all. So let's create here an if statement. If window dot confirm, and are you sure you want to remove this stock? Also add the symbol here. We've added here backticks with symbol, and boom, pass this color in here, the stock symbol, of course. And if he says yes, then let's create a const of update const updated stock again, and we're going to assign the updated stocks to stocks.filter. We're going to filter over, loop over our stocks array, and using filter method, we're going to search for the stock that has the same symbol. So stock.symbol should be not equal to the stock symbol that is being passed in here, meaning that it's going to return everything excepting that stock, and then it's going to set the stocks and update them with the updated stocks that we have here. Okay, simple as that. Now let's add our handler to our stock table. Scroll down. We have here handle remove stocks, going to be handle remove stocks. Let's go to our table, pass it up here, handle remove stock, and now we can go down to the button and add it as a on click and handle remove stock. And again, this should accept now a stock dot symbol. Okay, so let's try this out. We're going to delete now. Well, why is this automatically executing? Because I forgot the callback function. Sorry about that. So the on click callback function, when this click is executed, only then call upon this. No. So when this click is executed, it's going to look for click, and are you sure you want to delete fdev, and we're going to click of course, and it's gone. Okay, so that's it for deleting stocks, and we can now move on to the next part. Ladies and gentlemen, a terrible mishap has happened. I have finished the entire recording, meaning they finished also the entire project, and then from this point on, all of the videos were blank. As I was trying to edit them, I just realized that everything was blank, and I would have to restart the project from the point that I left off. The last video that we did, or the last instance that we had, was to remove the stocks, and that one worked perfectly. And then we moved on to open the widget, depending on the stock that we selected. And from that point on, all of my recordings were blank, basically completely dark. So what I thought is to come back, and instead of deleting everything, also making a huge problem for you and myself, I let everything in here, but commented out and added some to-dos. So everywhere where you're going to see a to-do is something that we still need to tackle. So basically when we left off, we had here a couple of stocks. So let's add AAPL, Apple Inc. and it added tech. We'll just add Apple Inc. And the next step was to click on this Apple icon and open up here Apple as with its details and also the diagram, so the complete chart for it. Okay, so let's do this right now. I'm going to take you through all of the steps. First things first, up here, I just changed the NQ1, meaning that I'm going to see NASDAQ here and also NASDAQ here. Now, the state of open chart will be now passed down into a new function that is going to be called, I'm going to comment this in, open stock widget. We're going to create a new function, open stock widget. Is going to accept a symbol, because this is going to be triggered on the click of this Apple icon or symbol. The symbol that is going to be passed in this function will then be thrown down to the setter of open chart or set open chart, which is then going to accept that symbol. Set open chart will be then passed down, will reset our state here, which means that open chart will be reset. Now, if open chart is reset, then we're going to go down to in our use effect, and instead of the symbol that we hard-coded in here, we're going to change it using a variable to the open chart state, meaning that each time this function will be triggered, open chart will change the symbol that is going to be get from the trading view source, allowing us to use open chart also down here in our use effect, re-rendering the application and opening up this chart. Now the function of OpenStock widget will also trigger another effect, which is to use the useRef hook. So we're going to import up here useRef. We did import it using our import ref. Then we're going to create a variable called stock widget ref, pass it in, use the useRef hook on it, and then pass this stock widget ref down in here where our widget is situated. This little div right here, where we initially had stock details. Now I'm also going to delete this from here. Now, if I will comment this back in, then use ref and assign it to the stock widget ref. Now let's pass down the open stock widget as a prop to the stock list table. So open stock widget, use it here. Then let's open up the table, accept it here as a prop, open stock widget. Go down, down, down to where our symbol is situated in our stock list and add it here as a onClick. So onClick event, arrow function, open stock widget, and pass in here for the symbol, the stock symbol from the current stock. Having this done, need to add Apple again, AAPL, AAL, Apple Inc. something, add it in here. Now clicking on Apple should throw you up here and also open up Apple with its details and also the diagram. So it should look something like this. Why did it throw us up here? Well, we need to go back to app.json. And the second effect that the OpenStock widget function does is using that use ref on stock widget ref dot current dot scroll into view, and this is going to also accept a property of behavior column and string of smooth within curly brackets, of course. And this is going to give us that smooth scroll effect to the top. So if I'm down here, click on OpenStock widget, is going to scroll up to the top, not just jump up, meaning that it's going to focus on the newest stock that we just added. One last thing that you need to take into consideration, you should have here still the stocks being added in here. We are going to add a new filter stocks just in a couple of seconds. This is why you're seeing something else. If you would have only the stocks, no problem. I'm going to take care of this just in a couple of seconds. And I'm going to explain everything. So this is how we open up the stock widget using our stock symbol. Okay, now we can move on to load and save. So in order to load the list and also save it to local storage, we need to initiate, first of all, the loading action as soon as the application loads. I'm going to make this smaller. And let's start with loading. Comment this back in. Let's go over our loading effect. We're going to use effect. Into use effect, we're going to pass in or create a variable called saved stocks. We're going to assign this to local storage dot get item, because we're trying to get from local storage the stock list, which we need to create using a string. Then we're going to search for if saved stocks exist. So if there is something in local storage, then we're going to use the stock setter. So stocks, set stocks, and we're going to use JSON.parse. We're going to need to parse the string data. We're going to actually get here JSON data with key value pairs, and we're going to pass in here to parse the data that we're getting from local storage. So if there is something in local storage, then please get it and load it. So if I would hit save now, then my list will disappear and the default stocks will appear. Now let's save the data. In order to save our list, we're going to go now ahead and use effect again. Comment this back in. And on each time we're going to add something to the list, it will automatically save it to local storage. In order for this to appear, first we're going to set the condition that if stocks, the state, up here, the array, remember this is an array, the length of the array is larger than 0, then local storage set item, and this is where we define the list. It's going to create a list that is going to be called stocks list. Then it's going to take the stocks using JSON.stringify now. It has to transform it into a string, and we're going to pass into stringify the state of stocks, which will be an array. Now down here in our use effect, each time the stocks will change, they will be set to local storage. Now right click on your application, inspect, set of elements, go to application, and right in here is your IP address. And you should see here momentarily nothing. So I'm going to hit save here. Now let's try and add a stock. I'm going to make this a bit smaller. Let's try to add Apple again. So AAPL, Apple Inc. And let's type in here. Let's add Apple, and you should see it in your list and also in local storage under the key of stocks, and the value will be the array. Now if you add another one, let's say we're going to add Tesla now, which has the NASDAQ ticker symbol of TSLA, Tesla Inc. And this should be consumer, and let's add it in here. So Tesla was added to local storage and also to our list. And from this point on, if I reload the application, it's going to load from local storage and the list will remain the same. Also, if I would delete one of them, it will automatically also delete it from local storage. Let's, for example, delete Apple. We're going to have a confirmation again. Okay, Apple was deleted from the list, from the UI, and also down here, no longer see it in local storage because it has been saved again using use effect, because stocks array, which is the state up here, just change, triggering, saving, triggering, loading. Okay, so next up, we're going to make our button here save and this little fellow load. Perfect. So first of all, I'm going to make these little fellows smaller, take out the to-dos because we're done with this. Next up will be to save. Saving will be handled by a function that we're going to call save stock list to JSON, because we're going to save it as a JSON file and we're going to save it to our local database. Now this of course can be later on configured to save it on a database, on a external database. So let's start out by creating a const, a variable, which we're going to call data. The data will consist of JSON.stringify, and it's going to stringify the stocks. And because stringify takes in 3 values, meaning the value, a JavaScript value, usually a array, then the replacer, and in our case, we're going to leave it as null, and an array of strings and numbers that acts as an approved list of selecting blah, 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 and the space adds indentation, white space, and line break character to the return value of JSON text. Okay, so these are these 3 values. Next, we need to create a blob. So we're going to create a variable blob. We're going to assign it to a new blob, which is like an object. This is going to accept the data in an array that we just created, and also the type of the data will be a application /JSON. Now the URL variable will create a new URL object. We're going to add the property of create object URL, and we're going to pass in the blob. Next, we're going to create another variable, a which is going to stand for an anchor tag. We're going to go ahead to the document, .create element, and a. We're going to assign the URL that we just created to our anchor tag using the .href property, assign the URL to it. Then when it's going to be downloaded, so anchor tag .download property, we're going to here by name the file as a stocks.json file. Now you can name it whatever you want. You can name it grandma.json, but it has to be .json, and add a onClick event to it. So .click, which is going to execute this little file. Now let's pass the save stocks list to JSON down in our stock list header. Remember, this is where this little button lives. So I'm going to comment this back in. send it in as a prop, accept it here. Let's open up our stock list header. By the way, if you hover over a component, hold down Command, you're going to open it up and click on it, of course. Now accept the save stocks list to JSON here as a prop, and then pass it down to the button, which is here, and accept it in a on-click event, open and close parentheses, arrow, and creating an arrow function, and initiate it here and pass in here a array. Let's save this also, meaning now if I would to click on the save list, it's going to open up my local files. Let's click on it, and now I'm going to save this list as, let's say, stocks dash, you should only see stocks, but I'm going to add here dash first dash list. Okay, the stock list was saved, and you should also see it right in here in your database folder. Database, you didn't create this folder, then create it in your application DB. You should see here stocks first list. These are the lists that I already saved in my previous recording. So if you don't see these items, don't worry about it. Now we're going to load this list right here. I'm going to close up the Explorer, go back to app.jsx, scroll up where we had our save data. So we're going to take out this to do, done. And now scroll down, and remember that we are setting here the stocks using the state of set stocks. So we can now pass it in again down in our application in our stock list header. So pass this in as a prop, go to the stock list header again, accept it here, then go down, and within here we're going to create in our input tag, remember to also have it set as a type of file, except as JSON. For the class, we just have a bg slate 400 rounded md ex padding on an x-axis of 2, y-axis of 1. And within here, we're going to now add a onChange event to it. This is going to take the event. Within here, we're going to create a file variable. We're going to assign it to whatever the event is passed down here, .target.file, and from it, we're going to select from the array, we're going to select the very first item. Next, we're going to create a variable called renderer. We're going to set this to new file renderer object, open and close parentheses at the end. This is going to let us asynchronously read files. Now, to the render, we're going to set a property of onload. We're going to pass in here an arrow function and accept an event. And that event will be now again passed down into this function with a variable of content, which is going to be set from that event .target.result, then that content will be passed in the parse data, which of course we need to use JSON.parse and pass it the content down here in order to be parsed. And now here comes our setter, our set stocks, which will accept now the parse data, meaning that when we're loading, we're actually resetting our stocks state up in our application. Last but not least, the reader.read as text, and we're going to pass in the file that we just created. So what this does is, if I would to load a different file, so this finished file right here, I'm going to reload, I'm going to load new stocks. And not only that, but because I change the state in the setter of the stocks, if I reload the application, well, they're already saved to local storage. Remember, each time we change the state, we're also saving using our use effect here. We're also saving this to local storage. Now, please go ahead and add multiple stocks here, and also add the correct technology, retail, and so on sectors. Add some finances. I added Berkshire Hathaway. You can add JP Morgan. You can add Bank of America or your local banks, whatever. Just find them on the NASDAQ. This is really important. They have to be on the NASDAQ, not on the S&P 500, because we're always using NASDAQ symbols. Okay, so add a couple of stocks, save them to a list, and also save them to local storage. Okay, now we can move on. Next up, we're going to sort stocks by name and also by sector. We're going to sort them A to Z and Z to A, and also the sector A to Z and Z to A, so the reverse. Now, being in the stock list table component, we're going to create here a filtered stocks and then a set filtered stocks state, assign it to use state, and pass in here the stocks. Replace filter stocks, actually replace stocks down here in your unordered list with filtered stocks. Now, because you're passing the state in here in your map, you're going to loop over the state, meaning also that each time you're changing this state, it's going to also change the display here. This is why we can now manipulate these filter stocks by using our setter and reset our stock each time we want. First things first, let's use a use effect hook and pass in here set filter stocks to stocks. This will help us on each render of the application load the stocks. Also, if anything happens to the stocks, this is going to reload the application. So don't forget to pass in here stocks in your use effect at the end in your array. Meaning each time you change the stocks, this is going to rerun. So now we're going to sort stocks from A to Z and Z to A. And this is done pretty simple. Comment this in, open it up. So type in a comment, sort by name. We're going to create a function, call it sort by name, use const, assign it to an arrow function, and pass in here as an argument a reverse, which is going to be automatically set to the boolean of false. Now this reverse will be now added to a new variable called sorted stocks. This variable will accept within an array the spread operator of the filter stocks. Then we're going to loop over it using a sort method, and it's going to accept here within an arrow function A to B. Then here is a checker. This will check if reverse is true, momentarily set to false. If reverse is true, then b.name.localCompare, I'm going to pass in here a.name. If it's not true, then a.name.localCompare, I'm going to pass in here b.name. Having sorted stocks assigned to either B or A, depending on the reverse, will be now set as the new state in our set filter stocks by passing it in here. This will reset the stocks and display the entire stock list either from A to Z or Z to A. Now let's use our sorted stocks function by passing it into our stock list table head. I'm going to comment this back in, pass it in as a prop, and also don't forget to have stocks and stocks passed in as a prop. Let's open the stock list table head, accept here as a prop, sort by name. Then within the small tags, which have the class of cursor pointer, text slate, hover text slate 800 and text slate 400. Right here, we're going to now add to this little fellow a onClick event. This onClick will trigger, using an arrow function, the sort by name function. A to Z will be normal, but the next one, Z to A, again, use a onClick, passing in an arrow function, trigger the sort by name function. And remember that we had a reverse here in this function. So guess what? Instead of reverse set to false, we're going to now set it to true. Having this done, now if I click on Z to A, it's going to re-render my stock list, showing me the list items with reverse names. Clicking on A to Z, going to reverse my reverse. Okay, pretty simple. Now let's go back to our stock list table. Next up, we need to sort by sector. Sorting by sector is basically the same thing as sorting by name. We're going to create another function. We're going to call it sort by sector. So const sort by sector, send it to an arrow function, pass in as an argument, again, reverse equals to false. We're going to set a new variable by creating a const sorted stocks, assign it to an array, use a spread operator to spread out your filter stocks, use the sort method again, and just as we had it here, A to B, and ask the question, is reverse true? If it is, B sectors, remember now this is sectors, not name, is local compare A sector. And if not, if reverse is false, which is in our case false, automatically set to false, will A.sector.local compare and B.sector. Now, all we need to do is set filter stocks to the new sorted stocks array, which is then going to reset the state. So let's hit save here. Take the sort by sector function, go down and pass it into stock list table head as a prop and then accept it as the function. Now we're going to go to stock list table head, and within our sector, we're going to add to the small tag, which has the A to Z, a onClick event and trigger it using an arrow function and set sort by name and sector as a function. We're going to do the same thing now to the last small tag, which has Z to 8 in it. Create an onClick event, pass in the arrow function and trigger sort by sector, and now pass in as an argument true. Okay, so now let's try out sectors, Z to A, and this is not working because, oh right, forgot to accept the prop right here. So accept the prop, sorted by sector, now it should work, Z to A and A to Z customer, C being the very first one, and Z, U being the very last one. Okay, now let's work on sectors. Now let's work on filtering sectors. So if we click on our select option here, we only have one option, all sectors. So let's go back to the stock list table, and right here we're going to have filter stocks by sector. We're going to create a new function called handle sector filter. This is going to accept in a arrow function the argument of selected sector, because you need to know which sector is actually selected. So let's create a variable called filter stocks. We're going to assign it to selected sector, and this selected sector, if it is all sectors, so if the type and value is all sectors, then stocks will be displayed. If it's not, then we're going to loop over our stocks array, use the filter method on them, and we're going to search in a arrow function for the stock.sector that is equal to the selected sector. So whatever sector we select, that one will be displayed. Now we're going to pass in filtered stocks as set filtered stocks in the state. So right up here, set filter stocks will be now reset, meaning our filter stocks, which is the array down here over which we're looping over when we're displaying our stock list, is now being changed. Next, we're going to create here a setter for set filtered. So let's first of all create the state. Use a const, open close curve, open close square brackets, filtered, and set filtered as the setter. And within the state, we're going to set in an object a isFiltered key with the value of false and filter with an empty string. Let's go back to our handle sector filter and set within here isFiltered. We're going to set isFiltered to the selector, to the selected sector. And if it is not all sectors, then the filter will be filtered stocks. Now let's pass handle sector filter down in our stock table head, in our stock list table head. So in here, let's pass it down as a prop, accept it here. Let's open up the stock table head and accept it also here. Now we're going to scroll down, and in our select element, we're going to use a onChange event, pass in the event into an arrow function, use our handle sector filter, and pass in here e.target.value, basically meaning that if I select something from here, it should be displayed as a new list. Now, in order to have here multiple sectors as an option, we only have all sectors, open and close curly brackets, open and close square brackets, and create here, using a spread operator, a new set. We're basically going to create a new array within here. And to that array, we're going to set the stocks.map, and we're going to loop over each and every stock, return the sector, now loop over them one more time using map, because remember, map creates a new array. We're going to take the sector and pass it down here as a option. Each option is going to have a unique key. The key will be the sector. The value of the option will be also the sector. And within here, between the two sector tags, we're going to pass in the selected sector. So hit save, and now you should see all the sectors that you added here. This is also preventing duplication, meaning that if you're adding a retail trade or a finance sector as a new stock, and I just mistakenly clicked on edit, it's not going to be displayed here as a second sector, but it's going to only be displayed as one. So now if I would click on one of these sectors, electronic and technology, only the apps or only the stocks within that sector will be displayed. Also, I can still filter them. Now, if I would like to display only retail, which is Amazon, Costco, and Walmart, I will only get them. Again, we can filter them by name using our two filters here. Okay, so that's it for displaying. Also, let's just click on, for example, Walmart. It should take us up here. Okay, taking a couple of seconds now. Done. Okay, something went wrong there with Walmart. Costco. There we go. Okay, working beautifully. So next up, let's work on search. Now let's work on the search functionality. We need to add search up here in our bar in order to see in our UI the possibility to search for some stocks. So I'm going to close up the stock list table head. We no longer need this. What we do need is the stock table, the stock list table, and the stock list header. What we do need is the stock list table. In the stock list table, we're first going to create a state for search term and set search term and assign it to the use state of an empty string. I'm also going to take out these to-dos. We already did them. Now, right after filter stocks by sector, we're going to create a new comment here, stocks, search stock by name and symbol, because we both can search it by name or by symbol. For this, we're going to create a function. Let's call it handle search. We're going to assign it to an arrow function and pass in the event. Within the function, we're going to create a variable called search term using const. We're going to assign it to the event .target.value and to lowercase and initiate it here. Then the search term will be assigned and set to the set search term state. So pass in search term in the state. Next, we're going to create a new variable called filtered stocks. Filter stocks will be assigned to the stocks.filter, going to search for a stock, and then we're going to stock.symbol, .to lowercase, and .includes the search term. So basically, we're searching in our stocks if there is a symbol that matches the symbol that we just passed into this function. Or if it matches, so use the or operator here, if it matches the stock.name, .to lowercase, and .includes the search term. If it does, then the set filtered stocks will be reset to the stock that we just passed in here, the filtered stock. Now let's use our handler, pass it down in here in this div, and this is basically just a div which is going to contain a input component. So don't forget to import the input component up here. Then for the value, pass in the search term, and on change, pass in handle search. For the placeholder, you can just pass in search by name or symbol. And now if you would search for something, for example, let's say, do we have Tesla? Yes, we have it. Do we have Apple? AAPL, okay, or APPLE. Let's search for Google, GOOGL, or a search for its name, Alphabet, and there we go. So we can both search either by symbol or by name. And that's it for our application for now. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. If you have any kind of questions or suggestions, please leave them in the coding section. And with this being said, happy coding and catch you in the next project. I'm NoBBM. Take care. Bye-bye.